This is Angela Harden, General Manager of WHCR 90.3 FM, and I am once again introducing Barbara Askins. She is the host of 125th Street and Beyond. Barbara is President and CEO of the 125th Street Business Improvement District in Harlem, better known as the 125 BID. She successfully created the first and only business improvement district in the Harlem community. She is guiding the development of result oriented strategies involving retail plans, rezoning for future growth, cultural sustainability, and evaluating the interplay between science, technology, and businesses. Her public involvement strategies have led to successes such as the annual Harlem Holiday Lights, the first cultural bonus incentive in New York City, to be used to shape the future of 125th Street as a cultural destination. Working closely with NYPD and 12 other city agencies, she is driving an interagency and community involvement approach that is addressing crime, homelessness, mental illness, sanitation, and streetscape improvements. Take it away, Barbara.
Thank you, Angela. Good afternoon, listeners. 125th Street and Beyond is a show about the work we are doing at the 125th Street Business Improvement District here in Harlem. It is also a show about the relationships we are building with city agencies, bids around the world, and our neighbors here in Harlem. We will be giving you updates on what's happening and addressing issues that impact the commercial district. I am often asked, just what is a bid and what do we do? Well, it's a tax assessment district. And what that means is the owners of the property, we have 98 of them within our boundaries between Morningside and Fifth Avenue, they assess themselves to provide programs to make the area grow. And so our programs, which is to improve the quality of life and provide opportunities, includes clean and public safety initiatives, interagency collaboration, zoning, forging an arts cultural destination, marketing and promotion, and real estate development. You are listening to 125th Street and Beyond. Today, we focus on the importance of 125th Street to adjacent neighborhoods. We have two very special guests, and they are both members of the Mount Morris Park Community Improvement Association, better recognized as MMPCIA. The 125th Street Business Improvement District and Mount Morris Park Community Improvement Association has forged a partnership, and we work very closely together. In these partnerships, we support each other's mission, we share ideas and best practices, and we support each other projects. We will begin with Madeline Stokely. Madeline Stokely is the president of the Mount Morris Park Community Improvement Association. Madeline was born and raised in Harlem and moved here with her two daughters to the Mount Morris Park Historic District over 40 years ago. Madeline follows in the footsteps of her mother, Miss Hilda E. Stokely, who I had the pleasure to know and work with, the founding chairperson of the Mount Morris Park Rehabilitation Committee. Madeline, I am so interested in hearing about your story. And can you give us a quick picture on what your life was growing up as a child in Harlem and how this has shaped your love for Harlem?
Oh, thank you, Barbara. Thank you for having me and MMPC on your program. This is an exciting opportunity for us to share who we are. Growing up in Harlem, it was a very interesting, rich experience. It was just felt like such a community. You just knew everybody, and there were a lot of people in Harlem, a lot of buildings and a lot of people, a lot of children. So you always had something to do and some place to go within your little community. You couldn't go out too far, but you were out on the street, and the parents were just there sort of watching, but you had your own independence. You developed your leadership skills and all your negotiation skills by being out on the street and just enjoying each other. And as time went on, what I began to see was that I began to learn a lot about my culture, being here in Harlem, because 125th Street, Lenox Avenue was a corridor where a lot of the Black, what I call the intellectuals were out on the street talking and telling us about what was going on in the community, what was going on in the Black world. So you could come out on 125th Street and listen to philosophers, and you could go to the bookstores, you could go to Chock full of Nuts, and the men sitting there just talking about, just very exciting things. And so you began to understand beyond your community what was going on. And you had a lot of men and women who took leadership positions in the community, and you sat around the table in homes, and you heard them talk about the struggles that were going on and the things that we needed to do as a community to bring about change. It began to change as with the influx of drugs and the Vietnam War. And that's when we really started seeing a change in our community and a neglect in the community, whereby the houses were allowed to just deteriorate, services were reduced. And so that's when we started really seeing a change around the time of the civil rights movement becoming very visible and in our community.
So you've seen it all. You've seen, the good times. You've seen the decline. You've seen us trying to come back and trying to maintain. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But we want to bring our second guest first, Sandra Heath. Sandra Alexis and her husband, Thomas Edwin, who are both artists, founded the Heath Gallery in 2002. At first as a home at their home, to exhibit Thomas's art, and soon thereafter to exhibit other emerging and underrepresented artists, with priority given to Harlem-based artists. Sandra, can you tell the listeners about your story and your love for Harlem? Where are you from and how did you get here?
Sure. So I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. My husband is originally from Newport News. He's been here since he's 17 years old. So both of us have spent most of our adult life in New York and in the Harlem area. I came to New York to go to school, to go to NYU, and I really thought that I was going to go to school there, get my degree, spend some time on Broadway, be a star, and then go back to my little, hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. But met my husband, married, started our family here. And ultimately, when my husband decided that he was going to pursue a career in art and doors were not opening for him downtown, we decided that we would open our own gallery here in Harlem. And, we've been here since 2002. But we both have had a love of Harlem since we were children, both of us separately. And it really has to do with, when you're from elsewhere, everybody knows that Harlem is the epicenter of Black culture wherever you are, and not in global Black culture. So, I know that I always had a dream to come to New York and to be a part of Black culture, which is Harlem, and similarly for my husband.
And I'm not from New York and from Harlem either. And I had similar experiences. You hear all the time and you just can't wait to get here. And then when you get here, it's like, oh my, wow, look at all of this. So, Sandra, your business is not on 125th Street. And one of the things that Madeline and I talk about all the time, because this is why we forged the partnership, is we here at the BHC 125th Street as the economic heartbeat, but we also see it as a place that can spur and help to send business to those who are not on 125th Street. So I would be interested in hearing, how is 125th Street helpful to your business? And if it's not, particularly being frank, what thoughts do you have on what is needed to make better connections?
Sure. And thank you for that question. We have been able to be here and sustain, number one, because we own the property. And so we're not having to pay a separate rent or a separate mortgage somewhere. And what has been successful to bringing traffic here is being a part of our local community, being on the house tour and people from the community coming in. And so that's all about partnership and collaboration. And so I think not only our gallery space, but other galleries in the area would benefit from being able to find ways to partner with the businesses on 125th. We think that that everyone can use some art or some visual, identity that an artist can create inside of their business. And conversely, surely the people that come through our doors are able to take advantage and benefit from the products and services that are offered by businesses across 125th Street. So just really setting up partnership opportunities, collaborative opportunities, opportunities to do things a little different, a little outside of the box, because that's what Harlem is known for.
Exactly. And I think we maybe need to delve into a little bit more of the customer journey and getting it from being just a one stop, like they come to one place and then leave. And we have a lot more work to do to talk more about that, and even making it easier for those people to get from your space to 125th Street and from 125th Street to your space. I mean, I think what you guys are doing in Mount Morris Park, using the brownstones to bring the art and blending that in with the architecture, is really a phenomenal thing that more people should know about and take advantage of as a business strategy. Matt, I'm sorry, did you want to respond to that?
No, I was just saying absolutely. And there's been conversation about, having tours throughout the community of businesses. And so the thing that was done with Brixton, where people were able to experience businesses, I think the opportunity to do more of that would be helpful to all of the businesses. And it creates not only does it bring people into the business, but you form new relationships. You connect with your neighbors or people in your block that you may not necessarily have connected with, but now you're doing something social, learning about a new business and benefiting that business at the same time.
Exactly. Madeline, okay, MMPCIA was founded 45 years ago and has survived. And there has been many challenges and new ones continue to pop up. Can you elaborate on the commitment? And I say commitment because I work with you guys. I was out there helping to plant flowers. I come to these other events, and a lot of people don't see that. There's a real commitment by the members of the association. And just exactly what are you guys trying to achieve?
Well, we're trying to achieve several things. It all centers around the value of human beings being able to live a quality life, regardless of your economic status. I come from a family that always understood that and lived that and practiced that. And so back in the 60s, when my mother and other women were engaged in revitalizing the park, I lived that experience. And so I knew that if they could do that back in the 60s, surely with all of the opportunities and access that we have, we can do that. So of course, in the beginning with MMPCA, Harlem was in the throes of the crack epidemic. It was just really a challenging place. I always loved Harlem, but I have to say there were times I sat on my bed and cried because I could hear the gunshots. We had to chain up everything. It was just really a challenging place to be. And my mother always said, well, I'm staying here. You all could go wherever you want to, but I'm staying. And so that energy of taking whatever value, whatever opportunities, whatever knowledge I had, and to bring that to make sure this community was able to reach its fullest potential is what MMPCA started out as. And so you had men and women, some who had been in this area for 40 years, long before MMPCA. We had Doctors Row, 122nd Street. And so they came together with some of the new people, and we said that we need to make sure we take care of this community and build upon those who preceded us. So since we were in a crisis, one of the first things that we were dealing with is like you go to emergency room, they have to make sure that you can still breathe and all of that. And so the first effort was safety and security that we focused on. Of course, we find, very well, Barbara, you find the ebbs and flows of the safety issue, so we see that coming and going. It's probably going to be at least for our lifetime. And so safety is one of the primary values and issues that we focus on, but we also want to make sure that we maintain the fact that this is a Black community built on the art and the culture and the political struggle of the Black people who made this community what it was, so that those who are coming in, who have been coming in the last decade or so, want to be here, want to make an investment of their time and energy. And so we want to celebrate those before us. We want to build on it. We want to know that we have happy times. We have great things going on in our community, and we want to celebrate that and share that with the larger city, state, and the world.
And well said, and something we need more of, because the challenges are so great that you have to work together. No matter what kind of conflicts or arguments or whatever you have, you still have to work together. And so, Sandra, I would like to know more about your gallery. I mean, I want to know more about it professionally. I definitely want to find out how we hook more into 125th Street, but something you probably do not know, Madeline knows, and I will share with you. I am also an artist, and I've been painting for over 30 years and have not really exhibited. And I love your gallery and stuff. I'm actually trying to make sure I meet up to your standards, but I would like to take this opportunity for you to share with the listeners exactly what your gallery is about, how the perfection of the creativity that you display in there, the unique work and the selection of artists that basically capture, something that's very unique that you would enjoy being able to see those visual expressions in Harlem.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara, for that opportunity. And I would love to talk to you more about your artwork and having a chance to exhibit here, because one of the things that is important to us as a contemporary art gallery is that we are an easy access opportunity for artists to exhibit their work, because we know that for artists to develop, they have to have an audience. They have to be able to see their work up and be present when others are engaging with their artwork. Our focus is really on easy access for underrepresented emerging artists, but also established artists, and making sure that they are getting a high quality exhibition experience. That we want to be a place that an artist is proud to have said that they have exhibited their work, that they want to have listed, on their resume. But at the same time, since 2014, we've done something that was really fostered by a younger daughter, called Hang Night, which is allows artists just once a month to come. We take anything that's off the wall, that's on the wall, off. The walls are blank, and once a month, artists can come and just hang their work. And it's not you get to hang your work in any available space, and it's open not only for visual artists but artists of any genre. And then we make sure that you have an opportunity to talk about your work, and that those who are in attendance have a chance to engage with you. Because, you can have a beautiful gallery and beautiful artwork, but you also need the community to visit. That's the other thing that's important to us, to be a gallery in which anybody can walk through the doors and feel welcome, that you can ask questions about the art. We seek to also offer a range of price points in the artwork that we exhibit, and also to show not just one category of art. So there may be mixed media, there may be portraiture, there may be sculpture. I have a particular passion for collage and textile work, but we're looking to appeal to as broad a section of community, or as many people as possible, and to just make the experience warm, wonderful, and inviting.
Well, I thank you for welcoming my soft pitch, and I will be will be getting in contact with you. So, Madeline, can you tell us what is the significance of 125th Street to the Mount Morris Park neighborhood? You and I have talked about it many times when you tell me what you expect when you walk across 125th Street. So can you share with us a little bit more of, why to you it's more than just a place to shop?
Well, I think that some people don't realize how impactful 125th Street is to them. There's an energy on 125th Street that just is just so exciting. Even I know, Barbara, you struggle with some of the challenges, but even in the midst of all of that, you go out on 125th Street and you just sort of smile, laugh, and chuckle to yourself because you see all kinds of people. We have our own language that we speak on 125th Street.
We do. We do.
People that travel from somewhere else. I mean, I hear people make up words, but it really emphasizes what they're experiencing. And so, I mean, I heard a woman say, "I don't want no worryation," and I'm like, I know what you mean.
Yes, it is.
Right, right.
And that's what people coming to see it. They don't know what they're coming to see, but when they have the experience, it's like, there it is. This is Harlem. There it is. This is Harlem. It's in the dress. It's in the attitude. It's in the walk. It's in the hair. It's in the step. It's even in just the greetings of each other when you see each other. And so, and the story, I tell it all the time of how I met you. And I got a phone call from Mr. McKinney saying they needed help, at a polling station, that they had problems and he needed some good people over there. And so Harlem called. So I went and I get over to the poll and I met you. And here we are 30 some years later. That was when Mayor Dinkins was running for mayor, and our relationship, because of Harlem, have kept us together and stuff. And so to close this segment out, I want to bring up Pat Eaton, who is the first person that brought me to understand and know about the Mount Morris Park area. She was on Community Board 10 when I was chair of the community board, and she has since passed. And so with you as now the chair of Mount Morris Park Community Improvement Association, I would like for you to just give a little tribute to her.
Yes, thank you for that opportunity. Pat was a special woman. She will probably be remembered for a very, very long time. One of the things that I was most impressed with Pat with, and she kept Patricia with, and she kept that to her very final days. Her commitment to this community was unwavering, and her fearlessness was just tremendous. We were shortly before her death, we were on a call with Keith Wright, explaining some political things to us, and he said, "Oh, I'm glad Patricia Eaton is not on because she gives me hell." So, but about a half an hour later, she came on the call, and we were all being rather polite, and so Patricia comes on. She said, "Keith, you just need to stop it and just come on, tell us the truth. You know what we want to hear." So that was the energy that she took everywhere she went. And people knew when Pat stepped in. Patricia, I'm sorry, because I used to call her Pat, and then she told me later, "Oh, it's Patricia," Patricia Eaton, and I do respect that. She brought that energy and that commitment to our community. And I just know that without her, we would not have gotten to where we were when, even 10 years ago, and we surely would not have been an organization, volunteer organization, no pay, no one gets paid for anything, that has been able to sustain itself, has brought the Mount Morris Historic District to the front and gets into the New York Times for good things, and really has become a destination point for people around the world to come not only to Harlem, but to come to this particular community. And we owe much of that to Patricia Eaton and the work she does. And she was a wonderful singer. When I first moved into my house, our backyard sort of come together, and she would practice. And I was like, my goodness, how wonderful is that? I have an operatic singer that wakes me in the morning on Sunday morning. So she was such a talented person on so many levels, but her voice is just absolutely wonderful. So we owe a lot to Patricia Eden.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And so, Sandra, before we go to a music break, do you have some final words to say? And then we'll come back and talk about things that we have done.
Well, a couple of things I just wanted to say relative to Patricia Eaton, that she taught many of us really how to do community service. You know, it was masterful watching her work with the entire community, and no matter what was going on, to just keep things moving. I also wanted to say that, you know, when I and my husband came to Harlem, that was during the time in which many were running away. But what I was struck by is that for us, despite at that time there being a lot of, you know, boarded up buildings and us hearing about this and that, we felt like Harlem was still the best kept secret. There was still a tremendous sense of community. And part of that feeling of community was the work that MMPCIA did, because you knew that if you had a problem, there was someone, a group that you could go to and work with to get issues resolved. And that was very, very important. And I think part of the stick-to-itiveness for a lot of people about being here in this community.
We will take a station break, a small station break and music break, and come back to talk about some of the challenges we face. You are listening to 125th Street and Beyond, 90.3 FM. You are listening to 125th Street and Beyond on 90.3 FM. I am your host, Barbara Askins. We are having a great discussion with Madeline Stokely and Sandra Heath. So let's continue with some work we've done together. So what has the BID and MPCIA been up to? We had a fabulous project in welcoming people from Brixton. It's the Harlem-Brixton twinning. And this is the first twinning of a business improvement district anywhere on the planet. And so Brixton and London have gone through several of the same transitions and problems that Harlem have, with people of color coming in, people of color being pushed out, small businesses, struggles, social justice. And so John Luca, who runs the Business Improvement District there, and myself came together and said, why don't we start sharing best practices and come up with how we can support each other, how we can bring people from Harlem over to Brixton and vice versa. So last year in May, we started that project and we brought people from Brixton here. And of course, I went to my partner, MMPCIA, Madeline Stokely, and we carved out a fascinating program. Madeline, do you want to share a little bit of how this initiative not only brought more engagement from your members, but also too, I think it showed us a way that we could grow this with not just Brixton, but with other communities of color?
Yes, I mean, I think it's always very important for Black people around the diaspora to be able to stay connected, to understand that how struggles are similar, how accomplishments are similar, and to work together to celebrate and strengthen that. And so mainly because of you, Barbara, I said, oh, that sounds like a great idea, because I felt if you were involved in it, it would be something that was not exploitative, but collaborative and supportive. And so we were really excited. At first we were a little confused, like, what are we going to show them? What are we going to do? But then, for me, I should say, I was a little confused. But then, of course, I said, what are you talking about? This is Harlem. This is wonderful Harlem. Everybody wants to come to Harlem. And we're in such a unique and beautiful piece of Harlem, spot in Harlem, and then, like you said, like with Sandra's gallery, and over the last 10 years, there's so many businesses that have opened up that reflect who we are, and also brings in some new identities, cultures, flavors to the community. And so when I started reaching out to our board, they were very, very interested in being able to host and demonstrate two people who had a commitment to a similar community in England to come over here and for us to see what a lot of things that we had in common and how we could work together to support one another. And so we started identifying businesses and organizations within our catchment area that would be appropriate to expose our guests to. And so, of course, Sandra Heath Gallery was one of the really central places to that. And she was able to pull together other galleries in Harlem for them to visit. And I know some people have developed some relationships that they probably have for quite a while with people in Brixton. And it was interesting because they don't have, one of the things that they don't have that we have is understanding the community organization aspect of their operation. And so they were particularly impressed that we exist and that we have existed for so long, and that we also have the ear of people in positions that are responsible for providing services to our community, and we can pick up the phone and get someone here at a very high level to come and talk to us about an issue that we have. And so they were particularly that was another part of it that they were very interested in, how to do that. So that was it's a great opportunity that I hope to see us move on to other bids around the world.
And then we went over there, and it was so interesting. They came here first, and they actually duplicated the tour they were going to give to us with what was the different attractions they had over there. Like, we took them to Mount Morris Park. They took us to their park with their windmill where we saw wheat being made. It just was such a great exchange, learning and understanding the history of Brixton back all the way to Rome. When we went to that radio station where they explained how they used to used to steal, in a way, the music from the US so that they can let the people in London hear. And all of those different conversations brought us so close together. And fast forward to tell you, just last Friday, I did speak with John Luca. There's a contingency of people that's ready to come back here to Harlem again, if we will have them. And we also want to take people back. So the project has not stopped. We're getting more interest from the city, to be a part of it. And from our point of view, and this takes me to Sandra, we have to learn better to create opportunities for people to make connections easier, and also to put together tourism packages. Sandra, I want you to expound a little bit on this, because we came to your gallery, and I would say we probably stayed there longer than in any gallery. They were very, very impressed, and there were great conversations. And I'm really looking for you also and your ideas to give us ways that we can grow this program.
So it was really, delightful, and I was really pleased that not only did the guests come to Heath Gallery, but they also went to Maria Granville's gallery,
yes,
gallery, and also Calabar Gallery. So they visited 4 galleries, and then also several retail outlets, in several boutiques and retail outlets in the area. And it was really nice because, I think many of us in our own business can become very silo focused on what's happening with us and those around us. And I never considered that there were some of the similar challenges were experienced in Brixton. And so one of the things that would be wonderful would even to be able to find ways to share artists, to have some of the artists from Brixton exhibited here and some of the artists here exhibited there. And that's something that I think that there would be a lot of interest in.
Fantastic. So we're going to make that happen. And you didn't get a chance to go with us, but we hope that you can go with us next time. We learned a lot. It takes a lot of planning and earlier planning in order to make those type things happen. So now we're going to get into some of the tough issues. And Madeline, you have been speaking about them, and we at the Beard don't shy away from them, and we shouldn't. We making Harlem what it is, making 125th Street what it is has been because people believe in the culture, the arts, the value. But at the same time, there are a lot of social issues, different ideas, different thoughts. But the one thing I can say is that all of those struggles are around people who love Harlem. So the first major topic, and I like to bring it up all the time because you hear this word every day, is gentrification. So Madeline, off the top of your head, what do you want to say about gentrification?
Well, I am a human being that accepts other human beings, no matter who they are, because of the fact that they are human beings. And so I've never felt that other people should not live in Harlem. But what I have to say personally, I'm not speaking for MNPCA right now, but what gets me to my core is that the things that we needed when this community was 99.9% Black, we did not have. Simple things like collection of garbage. I'm not talking about anything elaborate. The appropriate police patrol, a quality park. We didn't have those until a certain class, economic class of people started coming into the community. There was not a balance in the planning process that created the development of housing for those who were of a lower economic category. And so buildings were allowed, as Sandra said, just to sit and nothing would happen to them. They were just allowed to deteriorate, or some kind of program came up. Oh yeah, you get a house for $1, but then you couldn't get any financing to do it. So I really am just still have a degree of anger for those who were in power during that time, that they did not have either the foresight, the commitment, or whatever to make sure that the housing stock became balanced. We didn't have to go from total deterioration and to $4 million houses. There had to be a lot of stuff in between that could have happened. And so people were removed from Harlem who loved Harlem. And I don't think that will ever be able, not in my lifetime, be able to be reversed, so that you have a mixed income community, which in our country translates into mixed racial community. That's the most disheartening part for me. People in my family, they still say they're from Harlem, although they haven't lived there for 30 years, because this is their home, but they can't afford to live in Harlem. Had my mother not had the wisdom in the 70s to say, I'm going to buy one of those, as we used to call it, one of those little raggedy houses, I wouldn't be here. And so it's a sad commentary on, I will say, the political structure of New York City that allowed this to happen. Now that we are gentrified, do I enjoy being able to go to the corner and get some groceries and not have to get in a car and go somewhere to buy groceries, or a decent drugstore and wonderful restaurants that I could sit and eat in? I remember the first time I sat in a restaurant, at the beginning of the changes on Lenox Avenue, tears came to my eyes because I could get a glass of wine in a stemmed glass. Now it sounds simple, but oh my goodness. And my friend is with me. She's from Westchester. She's like, "What's wrong with you?" I said, I can't explain it. I can't explain it. And so, of course, along with gentrification comes things that every community should have, regardless of the economic level of the people there or the race of the individuals living there. And so it is a yin and yang. It's a love and a hate, all that goes on. And so sometimes when people who are newer that come in, experience some of the frustration and the anger, it's because people have been able to see that their grandmother lost their house that had been in their family
Right.
for years.
Yes.
They're just there's still a lot of sadness and anger that exists. And I mean, we were gentrifiers because when we moved in here, this was a rooming house. And so we weren't tremendously well received in the block either. But fortunately, my mother had the connections where everybody got another house. But it took time for people to warm up to us because they were
Right.
like, who are these people coming in? So it's an interesting phenomenon.
And this is why I asked the question, because I think we need to talk about it, because each person experience lead them to, seeing it differently. I remember, like you said, when we would go to lunch, we would carpool to go downtown from our job so we could eat in a restaurant. You just made me remember that. And I think also, too, we focus only on retail stores when we're looking at businesses and don't see that there are more people of color working in these stores, that are managing these stores, than have been there for a long time. Now, do we want more of people of color in every category? Yes, we do. But it doesn't mean that we have none. And sometimes when we just say gentrification, it makes it seem like we're not a part of anything. Sandra, from the arts part, I also want to hear, your understanding or your feelings about gentrification.
I have, I guess, a couple of thoughts. First, I mirror what Madeline has said about children who grew up here not being able to afford to live here. I think of a play that my daughter did with one of her friends called Renaissance in the Belly of a Killer Whale. And it was a very balanced look at gentrification, but one of the lines talks about them no longer being able to afford to live here, having grown up here, and how sad it is for them to come back sometimes and see little kids running and playing and just having a different kind of experience that they had as kids, but also different kind of experience than they are even having as adults because they can't be here. The other thing that I'm reminded of is that when I look at Heath Gallery as a place that is intended to be for the local community, the local community has changed. And that's meant that we've had to double down on some things in terms of the artwork that we want to represent, who we prioritize, while at the same time ensuring that we are welcoming to everybody and that we do reflect the whole community. So that just means that we have to make some interesting decisions sometimes, and even and it can be subtle, like even yesterday, the exhibition that we have up right now is about Black mental health. And yet we had some music that was playing that we had to be, as different guests come in, very sensitive to whether whoever's coming in at the time will understand the music that we're playing relative to what's on the wall. Because we want to be, we want everyone coming in to appreciate what it is that we're doing and what we're trying to say, while we still want to make sure that we are preserving our core intention, which is to preserve Black culture.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to throw out some words. They're all our challenges, and you can pick one, whichever one that you would like to talk about. So here we go. Homelessness, addiction, drug use, drug sales, and a cannabis dispensary on 125th Street. Madeline, which one are you going to choose?
Well, I'll pick the homelessness, because I think that's at the foundation of much of what we see happening on our streets now. That housing, a home is a right. A human being has a right to have a home. And in a society as wealthy as this society, there should be no one who wants to live in a physical space not to be able to do that. And so when people talk about what they see on the street and they get angry with the person on the street, I don't call people homeless because that's not who they are. That's an experiencing that experience that they're having. That, and I would believe that I would wonder to myself, if I didn't have somewhere to live, how quickly would I become mentally ill? How quickly would I turn to narcotics if I knew day after day I did not have shelter, that I had children, that I had nowhere for them to go? I think it would be a really short window that I would start to be acting very strange and be one of those people that someone would want to pick up and remove from the front of their house. So I don't think we can have the conversation in isolation of the historical structure behind getting us to where we are now. And what we end up doing is we're fighting against each other instead of looking at the structure, the political, social, economic structure of this society, and putting the burden where it should be, not on those people who are struggling in the street. As offensive as the behavior can be, or frightening can be sometimes. And so I think the conversation should always include an acknowledgement of the fact that these people didn't just, they're not deviant people. They're not people who just want to be out on the street. But there are people who have not been able to fight against the system that has created this kind of a structure. It's surprising that there's not more of us out on that street.
That was a very, very enlightening way of addressing it, and one, that argument and those statements are not usually in the conversations of those who are trying to solve the problem. And I think it needs to be elevated. Sandra, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Homelessness, addiction, drug use and sales, and a cannabis dispensary on 125th Street. And the reason I selected these is because your organization is trying to find solutions. The 125th Street bid is trying to find solutions. We all are working with the city, and we've been doing it for a long time, and we still haven't made enough of a dent into bringing this into some kind of balance to where we can see some light, just a little bit of light. Every time you think you're making some headway, then some incident happen, and then it gets caught in the newspaper, and it's a bad mar on our community. And this is, again, reasons for us to talk about it, because we have not given up. We know that we're going to find a way to make it work. But right now we're tolling around in it. So Sandra, I would love to hear your perspective as well.
Sure. This is a very, difficult period that we're going through right now. And I have hope that there is light that we will see at the end of the tunnel. But I think that some of the things that we're experiencing in terms of open drug use, the prevalence of problems just right in our face, that for me and our family and those I talk to, this is the kind of the darkest period ever, when the 80s were said to be. We're experiencing the kinds of things that we weren't experiencing back then, and what that means is that it becomes a concern for people moving about. It becomes a concern for small businesses. It becomes a concern in terms of the types of businesses that are going to open. I think that there are people who are probably less inclined to be supportive of a cannabis store, opening on 125th Street because of the kinds of incidents that have been happening, not in isolation, but repeatedly. So there's a real safety, concern in a way that there hadn't been for a long time. And this, to me, feels even more concerning during the time it was projected to be more concerning.
Yes, and also too, I think it comes back to, and most listeners know the bid's position: wrong location and wrong time, and wrong time because of these other problems that we have. And the Harlem community has been compassionate about people struggling with some of these social issues. Even the businesses on 125th Street are reluctant to call the police when someone who is mentally ill come into the store. And even while it's having a very big impact on the businesses. And so we don't have answers, but I think talking about it and talking about it honestly, instead of us being pitted against each other, a cannabis dispensary on 125th Street cannot, even in the Harlem community, cannot happen without open dialogue and discussions by a multitude of people, not just a few that happen to be written into the codes, of the laws, because the people on the streets are the ones that's going to have to live with it. Another issue that's taken the same is taking the same plight of how government comes up with an idea and then they bring it to your neighborhood and say you're going to get it. And this is the towers. So I did not want to close this meeting without this talk show without giving you guys a chance to talk about those towers that are coming to, or designated to come to Mount Morris Park. So who wants to go first? We have about 7 minutes to talk about that.
Okay, all right. So I think one of the most disturbing things about the towers is it was misrepresentation of what they were, what they were going to provide to the community, and how that even that misrepresented information flowed to the community when it did get there. When we first started hearing about the towers, we were told that it was going to help to increase our Wi-Fi services. I think everybody has challenges with Wi-Fi. So, oh, great, it's wonderful, it's going to help. And but after you had to pull teeth and really dig to find out that was not going to help you in your home. It was going to help people on the street with having Wi-Fi access, which is a very, very different concern than a community having Wi-Fi so that they're home in their home. So they use the term, oh, it reduces the digital divide. When the digital divide came up in our community, it was about children being sent home with tablets that couldn't work because they didn't have Wi-Fi in their home. It was not about them sitting out on the street with a cell phone making phone calls or whatever kids do now. They don't make calls. That's right. They don't make calls, whatever they do with their phones now. So it was such a deception, which then starts to raise more suspicion in a community like ours, because we know, like we talk about the oversaturation of drug treatment facilities. They brought in all those because they told us that we were the ones that had the drug problem. So they're going to bring all of these facilities here, and other communities didn't have their share. So we see the 5G as a similar approach to a community that they thought was naive, but lo and behold, we weren't. And we started raising concern. We started fighting about the health issues and how not only was this being objected to in Harlem, but in the city and now in the country. We found that there were major lawsuits that stopped the 5G. So the 5G is part of, surely that's the elephant in the room. But what it continues to do is to show a disrespect for people, that they're going to do something that's not helpful to people, and then basically through either omission or straight out lying, present a whole different story to us. And so again, the time and energy you have to put into fighting these things, as opposed to just coming, like you said earlier, come and sit down and be honest with us. But
right.
So yes, so
exactly.
We've taken a position that we do not want 3 towers in the Mount Morris Park Historic District, because it shows there's no benefit to us, and it could be endangering our health and well-being.
So Sandra, I'm going to give you the last word. We have 2 minutes, and I stand, we're saying we do not want a dispensary in that location. And I think the time has to come to where we, the community, are not at the back end of all of these decisions. Sandra, your turn.
You're correct, and I agree with you on the dispensary. I am very concerned about the oversaturation of supportive services in our community. I'm very concerned about the towers, and one of those towers would be directly, across the street from, where the gallery is and where I live, and so there are so many things that happen in the community without really input from the full community. And so I'm thrilled to have conversations like this. It's why I encourage people to, become a part of their community organization. Doesn't have to be ours, but become a part of a community organization where your voice can be heard, because these things are happening. And we've been told these things happen in our communities because there's an expectation that we're not going to raise our voices, that they're not going to give the same kind of resistance from Harlem that they would get from other areas. And that is just downright offensive, a lie, and we can't let it happen.
Thank you for listening to 125th Street and Beyond. I'm Barbara Askins. Board operator is Angela Harding. My guests today have been Madeline Stokely from Mount Morris Park Community Improvement Association and Sandra Heath from Heath Gallery. Thank you very much, ladies. Tune in next Monday at 4 p.m. on 90.3 FM for 125th Street and Beyond.